Morning, Senior Bride here. Um, in my last video, I talked about boomers living in poverty and the underrepresentation, the underrecognition. Today, I'm going to talk about something that could help not only boomers living in poverty, but stabilize many societies and bring us all forward, moving forward. And it's universal basic income. This is a topic that has been discussed quite frequently in Canadian policy, but we find that there's a distinct difference between um, perspectives on the right and left. I will be honest, I am a huge proponent of UBI, or Universal Basic Income. I believe it can stabilize societies. I believe it can give people the opportunity to become more educated and move forward, and to move their societies forward. And as a result, globally, we can move forward. But I recognize that some folks may not feel that way. Um, the fact is, this concept has gained traction, not just in Canada, but globally in recent years. Um, it UBI really entails providing all citizens, regardless of social status, regardless of income, um, with a guaranteed regular cash payment to meet basic needs. The concept has been heralded by advocates, as I said, as a tool to address poverty, inequality, and as well the challenges posed by technological advancements such as automation. Critics have raised concerns about its feasibility, potential disincentives for work, and they argue that UBI could unlock societal benefits far beyond economic stability. So, what I'd like to do is look at the pros and cons, because I'm Canadian, I'd like to look at how it might particularly impact Canada, and we'll go where we go. By the way, if you enjoy these videos, leave always respond to comments. Okay, so what is UBI? The idea is rooted in the concept of providing economic security for all individuals, which fosters equality and dignity. It is not a novel idea. We can go back to philosophers and economists such as Thomas More in Utopia in 1516 and Thomas Paine in the 18th century, both of whom have historically discussed the merits of providing a minimum income to all citizens. Now, modern UBI proposals usually adhere to several key principles. One of them is universality. So payments are made to all citizens regardless of income, wealth, or employment status. Unconditionality. There are no requirements for recipients to work or demonstrate financial need. So just as I would get the payment, Elon Musk would get the payment. Regularity. The payments are distributed consistently, and that may be monthly or yearly, whatever is chosen. And adequacy. The payment should meet basic living costs, covering essentials like food, housing, and transportation. This sets UBI apart from traditional welfare systems, which are typically means tested and conditional, and create bureaucratic complexities that are stigmatizing for recipients. And I will be honest, that for any of you who have ever been in the public system in any, certainly countries like Canada, it is extremely demeaning. So what are some of the social benefits or societal benefits of UBI? Well, first of all, alleviating poverty and reducing inequality. So this is the most apparent and immediate benefit. It will ensure that every individual has access to basic financial resources. It can provide a safety net that prevents people from falling into extreme poverty. So, for example, in 2022, 7.4% of the Canadian population lived below the poverty line. And for different populations, such as those of us with disabilities, that was considerably higher. For those of us with disabilities, that was twice the number. UBI could drastically reduce these numbers by guaranteeing that baseline for all citizens. Income inequality is another pressing issue that UBI addresses. Growing wealth gap that we all have heard about is exacerbated by things like technological changes and globalization, and it has left many workers in precarious financial positions. By redistributing wealth equitably, UBI can reduce disparities in income and promote greater social cohesion. What about promoting health and well-being? Well, poverty and financial insecurity are closely linked to poor physical and mental health. Chronic stress from economic instability often leads to rates of higher anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. UBI could provide the financial stability necessary to alleviate these stressors, enabling individuals to focus on improving their health and well-being. They would then be less of a drain on society. We're going to go there. As well, access to adequate nutrition, housing, and healthcare, which is often affordable for low-income families and individuals, would be another area which would be significantly improved through UBI. Finland did a study in 2017, 2018. It was a UBI pilot program. And what they found was that participants reported higher levels of mental well-being and life satisfaction compared to a control group. Okay, it would empower education and skill development. So financial insecurity may and frequently forces individuals to prioritize immediate survival over long-term investments in education and skill development. UBI would provide that stability and allow people to pursue higher education, vocational training, or entrepreneurial ventures without the fear of losing their livelihood. So, for example, in Canada, where student loan debt remains a huge issue, UBI could alleviate the financial burdens faced by young people, allowing them to focus on academic and personal growth. This would benefit not only them, but Canadian society economically, because productivity would be increased by fostering a more educated and skilled workforce. We also need to address automation and the future of work. Because of the rise of automation and artificial intelligence, industries are being transformed and workers are being displaced in many sectors. And this is from manufacturing to customer service. A report by the Brookfield Institute estimated that nearly 42% of Canadian jobs are at high risk of being affected by UBI offers a solution to this disruption by providing financial security to displaced workers, enabling them to transition to new careers or explore alternative opportunities. Moreover, UBI could redefine how society perceives work. With a guaranteed income, individuals would have the freedom to pursue meaningful non-traditional forms of work, such as caregiving, volunteering, artistic endeavors, all of which at this time are undervalued in our society and very important. It would simplify welfare systems. Current welfare systems are bureaucratic and they are prone to inefficiencies. A universal income and the unconditional nature of it would eliminate the needs for mean-tested programs. It would reduce administrative costs and bureaucratic hurdles. It would become a streamlined system and would ensure that assistance reaches all civilians, all citizens, equitably without the stigma or invasive scrutiny that welfare recipients often experience. So let's look at Canada a little more closely. And what are the benefits of UBI for those of us in Canada? Well, we're already uniquely positioned to benefit from implementation of UBI because we have an existing social welfare structure. And we also experience high levels of income inequality and challenges posed by regional disparities. So we really are in a position to benefit. So let's examine some of the advantages that UBI could offer. First of all, reducing poverty in Indigenous communities. We know that Indigenous communities in Canada face disproportionately high levels of poverty, unemployment, and housing insecurity. UBI could provide these communities with the financial resources needed to address systemic inequalities. A guaranteed income could empower Indigenous peoples to invest in education, entrepreneurship, cultural preservation, and it would foster self-determination. We also look at how UBI would support rural and remote areas. Because of our vast geography, I guess, we have some unique challenges created for our rural and remote areas. And this is where access to employment opportunities and public services are quite limited. UBI can ensure that residents in these regions have the financial means to thrive, reducing disparities between urban and rural communities. It could incentivize population retention in these remote areas and alleviate the strain on what are becoming extremely overcrowded urban areas. Anybody who's walked in downtown Edmonton knows exactly what I'm talking about. It would address housing affordability. We are facing a housing affordability crisis like we've never faced before. And this is in particular in major urban areas like Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary. UBI would help citizens cope with rising housing costs by providing a stable source of income to cover rent or mortgage payments. This would reduce homelessness and housing insecurity. And I mean, imagine what would happen for low-income families and young adults entering the housing market. They would not have to worry about ending up without housing. It would empower marginalized groups. So women, racialized communities, persons with disabilities, we often face systemic barriers to financial independence. UBI would provide the opportunity and resources needed to overcome these structural inequalities, enabling us to more fully participate. Women, for example, who perform unpaid caregiving work would receive recognition and compensation, would reduce the housing inequalities seen by their senior members. It will also enhance resilience in economic crises. Now, I think the COVID-19 pandemic really did highlight the vulnerabilities of Canada's labor market and social safety net. Emergency benefits such as the CERB, or the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, demonstrated the potential of direct cash transfers to support citizens during crises. It was for a specific group of Canadians, but we saw the benefits. UBI could serve as a permanent mechanism to enhance economic resilience, ensuring that all Canadians have that financial buffer, even in times of uncertainty, such as disease. There are counter arguments and challenges, and I think we need to address those. One is obviously economic feasibility. Critics argue that UBI is too expensive to implement on a national scale. Financing a universal program requires substantial public funding, um, which could lead to higher taxes or reallocation of resources from other social programs. However, and this is where it gets interesting, those of us who are proponents have suggested that UBI could be funded through measures such as progressive taxation, closing tax loopholes for the wealthy, or implementing a wealth tax. Additionally, the administrative savings from streamlining current welfare systems would offset a significant amount of the costs. Others have argued that it disincentivizes, which would lead, of course, to labor shortages and reduced economic productivity. Yet, evidence from pilot programs in countries like Finland and in Canada, in the province of Ontario, the Ontario Basic Income Pilot, suggests that most recipients continue to work, with some even using the income to pursue better job opportunities and entrepreneurial ventures. People talked about inflationary pressures. So opponents worry that UBI could lead to inflation, particularly in housing. This is a valid concern. Careful policy design, such as regulating housing markets and maintaining competitive pricing, would mitigate these inflationary risks. Now, there's the idea of universal versus targeted approaches. Some argue that resources should be directed towards those who need the most, rather than providing income to all citizens, including the Elon Musks of the world. While targeted programs may seem more efficient, they involve complex eligibility criteria, huge administrative costs, and can be very demeaning, keeping people out of the workforce. UBI's simplicity and universality ensures that no one falls through the cracks, and it makes it a more equitable solution. So, UBI is potentially a catalyst for social and societal transformation. It doesn't just address economic and social challenges, it has the potential to fundamentally reshape societal values and priorities. As we decouple income from employment, it challenges the traditional notion that a person's worth is tied to their productivity in the labor market. This would foster a culture that values well-being, creativity, and community over relentless economic growth. It encourages more sustainable living practices. With financial security, individuals may increasingly prioritize environmentally friendly lifestyles, such as reducing consumption or engaging in community-based initiatives. And this aligns with part of Canada's goal of achieving sustainability and addressing climate change. Now, we have some of these provinces, like the one I live in, which are increasingly engaging in austerity measures and actually reducing climate initiatives. That is a concern that UBI could address. So we know that it is bold, it is transformative, it could address some significant challenges in our societies. It would alleviate poverty, reduce inequality, and provide financial security in times of economic and technological. It has the potential to foster a more just and society. In Canada, for example, the benefits are compelling. It could address regional disparities, support marginalized communities, and enhance resilience in times of crisis. Yes, challenges like funding remain huge issues and hurdles, but they are not insurmountable. We can learn to move forward as a society increase our capacity for community versus this perception that only the wealthy should have access to things like housing, food, clean water. Um, it's wrong. And we have the potential to change that through UBI, Universal Basic Income. So I encourage you to do some research, to look at the links I've given, and to please comment. I want to hear what you think. I promise to respond. The only comments I won't respond to are the ones that are abusive. Anything else, I'll respond to. I don't care if you agree, disagree, go off on another topic. I will respond. So if I may say, remember, to be senior is to be proud. Hugs.